Hi, I'm Ellie, if you don't know me, and today is my 10th wedding anniversary. And I couldn't think of a better way to celebrate that than by telling you the very, very short version of why that is such a big deal to me. I have been married 10 years, we've been together 11 years, and about halfway through, we almost got divorced. So I want to tell you why we didn't uh, and why we almost did. So, my backstory is not that interesting. I didn't do drugs. I wasn't in a gang. I did almost die a couple of times. But other than that, the worst thing that ever happened to me is that my parents got divorced when I was 5. And that's so boring because it's so common. And my parents worked really hard to stay friends after. It's hard to claim trauma when your mom still takes her ex mother in law grocery shopping 30 years later. But the best kind of evil is sneaky evil, you know? It's a tiny acorn that cracks a house's foundation. By the time I was 25, I had earned a reputation as a homewrecker. I threw myself into whoever excited me at the time, regardless of who they or I belonged to. And when the excitement wore off, I was gone. I was on to the next one. And that behavior was just miracle grow for the seeds that divorce had planted in my soul. It fed that thing that said that if a relationship didn't serve me, that I could just walk away at any time and that I should walk away. And unfortunately, my marriage was no exception. It took a long time for the warm fuzzies to wear off, but when they did, I found myself responding the same way I always had. Either you fix this or I'm gone. But it's harder to leave when you're married. It's a lot more paperwork, for example. And over the next 3 years, our amateur efforts at making peace resulted in a bloody civil war. Ultimatums and withholding just led to lies and adultery on both sides. And we tried everything. We went to counseling, we read self-help books, we talked for hours and not talked at all. And we just spent time together and spent time apart. And by the time we tried church, we were seeing other people. It was my last, most desperate idea. I figured if things can't be good, they can at least be fine. Spoiler alert, they were not fine. By the time we finally closed up our marriage again, we were less connected than ever. The lies and the withholding continued, and when another adulterous episode came to light, I was faced with a choice. I could either make good on years of threats and leave, or I could go against everything that I felt and stay. And as I looked into my husband's face in that moment, I heard a still small voice say, "Stay." So I did. 2 weeks later, God honored that moment and met me full on. 1 minute, I am standing in worship in an Easter service with my hands in the air, and the next minute, I am down on the ground, bawling my face off because Jesus is touching my spirit for the very first time. And it felt so good that it hurt. And I knew that nothing could ever be the same. And I wish I could tell you that in that moment, that all was forgiven, that all of our wounds and all of our wrongs were healed and forgotten. But that's just not how it works. And I was saved. forever and always a precious found daughter of God, but there was still a lot of work to be done. A couple months later, I am laying in bed looking at my phone, and I have another thought that doesn't belong to me. And this time, it said, "You started it." And it was such a simple statement, but it totally crushed me because it was true. I had entered into our marriage with this attitude that if it didn't serve me, that I could just walk away at any time. And I had dangled that over my husband's head for the last 6 years. And all that did was breed insecurity that led to division and doubt and deceit. Just like Eve giving Adam fruit in the garden and damning them both, I had made my husband eat from the fruit of my parents' divorce and ruined what should have been paradise. Our marriage was dead because of me. And so I turned to him in our bed and I said, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I never committed to our marriage, that I did this to you. But I promise you right now that I'm here, that whatever happens, we're going to get through it. I'm not going anywhere." And that's when things started to change. Love and respect started blossoming where fear and resentment had grown, and slowly we started to rebuild. And then God told me to have a baby. And honestly, I was pissed. I didn't want to have a baby. And my husband and I were just starting to enjoy each other again, if you catch my meaning. Why would we mess it up when everything was going so well? Babies are notorious buzzkills. And then God made me a promise that by staying married and having this child, that we would see generations of our families changed and saved. And not just going forward, starting with her, but going back, our siblings, our parents and grandparents. That by allowing Jesus to resurrect our marriage, we've broken a generational curse. There will be no more divorce, no more broken homes, no more lost children. We're a new kind of family. And instead of growing up surrounded by emotional and spiritual death, the way that her father and I did, our daughter is going to grow up in a family that is whole and undeniably alive. How could I say no to that? What started in unfaithfulness should have ended in unfaithfulness. But because God is faithful, what was dead is now alive. And the story of Jesus isn't just a pretty metaphor. It's a real, true story of God made flesh and suffering the indignities of humanity and death, and then rising again in triumph so that stories like mine don't have to end the way that they should. It's an exchange. It's his life for mine, and for ours, and for yours.